Okay, let's dive into it straight away. I'll tell you what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about fear, guilt, and pride. Fear, guilt, and pride. And I believe that these are the three major contributors to our lasting conflict. And so let me just kind of jump into it. Let's just paint a scenario here. Let's say you're talking to your dad, you're talking to your mom, your brother, your sister, your wife, your husband, and all of a sudden there's it goes from a 2 to a 10 on intensity. And it turns into an argument. And so let's just say that argument lasts, full blown out of 10, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Let's say somebody gets really ticked off and gets really long winded, and it actually makes it like the 15-minute mark. So boom, there's a massive, massive explosion. Okay, so that moment is over. Boom. Now what do? So everybody kind of goes to their separate corners and breathes. Now, while you go to your separate corners, okay, you get in the car, you drive off, you go home, or you go to another area of the house, you go to your separate corners. Okay, what begins at that moment? At that moment, both people are still entertaining thoughts, okay? Even if somebody is sitting on the couch watching TV, they're looking right through the TV. And what are they doing? They're sitting there and they're imagining, they're replaying the scenario, building a case in their mind and in their heart on why they are more right than they even thought they were in the middle of the argument. And why the person that they're arguing with is even more wrong than what you thought they were a few moments ago. And so this entertaining of thoughts continues on for hours, days, weeks. By yourself, when you're by yourself, you're sitting there thinking over and over and over again, rehashing the event, rehashing the argument, and building your case on why you're right and why the other person is wrong. And while you're thinking about why the other person is wrong, the level of anger, the level of resentment continues to build. And there's no ceiling on this building, this mountain of anger, this mountain of resentment. There's no ceiling on it. It's like this mountain that has, it can continue to build bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it starts getting even harder, which means firmer. It becomes a solid. It can't just kind of crumble apart like a mountain of sand. It's like a mountain made of rock now. And so you've got this mountain of rock on the inside of your soul, and it's just this anger and resentment. And every day that goes by, every week that goes by, this mountain becomes firmer and firmer like concrete. And so just the idea that there would ever be a day where this concrete mountain inside of your spirit would ever not be there it's almost impossible. Even if the other person were to apologize, if that mountain has been there so long, it's like you want to go through the motions of saying, I accept your apology. Maybe you don't want to go through the motions, but either way, that mountain has been there for so long, it's not going anywhere. And a lot of times, marriages or close relationships, friendships, best friends, they go through the motions of it because logically they believe that it's the right thing to do, or they have kids in the mix, and so they're kind of forced to get along. But that mountain doesn't go anywhere. Or maybe you work with the person that you have conflict with. The mountain does not go anywhere. It just stays in there. And so I want to talk about what keeps us from circling back around to that person quickly, reasonably quickly. I don't mean 5 or 10 minutes, but reasonably quickly after the 5, 10, 15-minute explosion, after the big fight? What keeps us from circling back a few hours later, or even the next day? The next day is kind of far, but once your blood pressure begins to drop and your heart rate begins to drop and you cool off, what keeps us from going back to that person and talking with them and hashing it out, so that mountain never has an opportunity to get built? And I'll tell you what, man, when that mountain is inside of you, that mountain of disappointment, whatever word you want to use, when that's inside of you, you have to. It's like having a rock inside of your shoe. You live the rest of your life trying to kick that rock to places in your shoe that you don't have to walk on, so that you can ignore it. But then, slowly but surely, that little rock kind of comes creeping back down into the center of your shoe, and you got to walk on it again. It never goes away, and you can never truly ignore it. Doesn't matter how many years go by. It's like it never goes away. As bad as you want to forget that person, never think about that person, that mountain never goes away, and it bothers you, and it bothers you for the rest of your life. And so I don't want to talk about I don't want this podcast to allow my brain to kind of chase rabbits. I want to stay really focused on this one thought right here. What keeps us from just turning around 10 hours, 5 hours, 2 hours after the initial blowout and just make peace? What keeps us from making peace so that mountain never has an opportunity to be built? And I would propose that it's one of three, two of three, or maybe even all three of these contributors that keep us from making peace. And it's fear, guilt, or pride. Fear, guilt, or pride. Let me unpack fear for a second. The idea of, after an argument, after a blowout, to circle back around to that person and make peace. If fear is the contributor, it's usually sounding something like this. I don't want to go back to this person and apologize and accept their apology, because I don't know if, and here's the analogy, if I am in a relationship with a dog that bites. Does that make sense? So let me give you an example. My neighbor, I think they may have gotten rid of it, I'm not sure, but my neighbor has a really cute dog. I mean, it looks like it came out of a cartoon. It comes up just a tad bit higher than an average person's knees. It's all white. It's kind of like a brown spot here, a brown spot there. It looks like it'd be the perfect dog to have in your Christmas photos, right? Some Disney movie, this dog would be there. It is a cute dog, short-haired dog, and it just runs free. Now, I live in the country, and so, we all try to keep our dogs and animals from not roaming around, but they roam around, and it's just kind of like this nonverbal, hey, if it doesn't bite, it doesn't tear up anything in my yard, hey, try to keep control of your animal, but if it gets out, right? It's not a big deal because I live in the country. Our church that I pastor is in the Woodlands, which is more of a suburban church just outside of the city of Houston. But I live a little bit further out. So when this neighbor's dog gets out and roams around, it's not like, oh my goodness, there's a dog out. What are we going to do? Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? That doesn't really happen. It's just kind of like, hey, the neighbor's dog is out. They need to put it back. But this dog all of a sudden bit our dog. Now, once a dog bites another dog, and I learned this from a veterinarian, every time the dog bites again, the bite gets more vicious. It gets more vicious each time they bite. The first time they bite is just kind of like an experimentation, just like, ugh. But then after that, it's kind of like, hey, that wasn't so bad. The repercussions weren't so bad, and it was a little bit fun. And so the bite actually gets more and more vicious. And then it begins to branch out to, hey, if I can bite a dog, I can bite a human, and it starts all over. It's a little bit light, and it's kind of a nibble, and then it gets more and more vicious as it goes on. And so we called up the neighbor and said, hey, look, you got to do something about your dog. It just bit our puppy. We got this little puppy. We got an older dog, and we got a puppy. It bit our puppy. And then it did it again like 3 weeks later. And so all of a sudden we had this family meeting. My wife called up the lady of the house, and they had a heart-to-heart discussion about how blah, 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 that dog's got to go, all that kind of stuff. But nevertheless, we had a family meeting. And it sounded something like this. Look, that dog is cute. 90% of the time, it's a friendly, sweet dog. Maybe even 99% of the time. But do not get close to that dog, because that dog bites. And that's how I want to refer to the element of fear in a relationship. A lot of times we don't go back and we make the relationship better, or we apologize, or we try to make the conflict go away, and put it to rest and put it to bed and confess of whatever we need to confess and apologize about whatever we need to apologize, and allow this healthy discussion to health to unfold. A lot of times we don't do that because there is a fear that maybe this person that we're in a relationship with has tricked us. They fooled us. They fooled us for the first 6 months of our relationship. If it's a new relationship, maybe the relationship is 7 months old. In the first 6 months, you fooled me. Maybe the relationship is 10 years old. Well, guess what? For the first 9.5 years, you fooled me. We got this fear in the back of our mind that maybe this person is kind and sweet and wonderful 99% of the time, but you are a dog that bites, and so therefore I can't trust you ever again in the same way that I used to. And so we have this fear element that there's a side of you that can hurt me. And since there's a side of you that can hurt me, I can never trust you. I can never be close to you again. I can never be close to you again. And that's what fear sounds like. Here's what guilt sounds like. Guilt is when you do something, you have inflicted pain on somebody you love, maybe your children, your wife, your mother. You have inflicted pain. What you did was 100% wrong. You inflicted the pain. The other person didn't do anything at all. Maybe you betrayed their trust. Maybe you said something to them. Maybe you did something to them. You inflicted pain upon them, and you just cannot forgive yourself now. Every time you think about it, you relive the event over and over again. And it doesn't matter what happens in life that's positive in that relationship. Your mind cannot let yourself forgive yourself for what you did and for what you said. And so you just beat yourself up. And so you can never be a positive contributor to the relationship again. I shouldn't say can never be a positive. You cannot contribute to the same degree you are capable of because you feel so bad, because you feel so guilty. And you think about it. And even if the other person has forgiven you 50 times over again, you haven't forgiven you. And you have convinced yourself that the relationship will never, ever, ever be good again because of what you did. And you can never respect your yourself because of what you did. Now, obviously, there's different degrees of guilt. There's different degrees. But at the end of the day, what I mean by guilt is that you are punishing yourself. And you have a belief that other people are punishing you as well. Even if they say they forgive you, even if they say they're not holding it against you, you still believe in the back of your mind that they are. In some subtle way, they are holding it against you. And a lot of people have this same guilt mindset with God, that they believe that God's not going to bless them the way he may have wanted to bless them before they were ever born because of the things that they've done. And there's no way that God could ever forgive them or restore them to the place that they were before they did what they did. That I can't find the word that I'm looking for. That any good thing that God had in store for them, they have taken that off the table because of what they've done. And that is guilt. That is guilt that you're punishing yourself, and you believe that other people are punishing you as well. Regardless of what they say, they're punishing you in some subtle way. That's guilt. Let me unpack pride now. Pride sounds like this. Pride sounds like, hey, we got into a fight. We got into a discussion. We got into a blowout. But I'm not going to come back and apologize to you. I'm not going to come back and make things better because I'm not going to let you talk to me that way. You are not going to talk to me that way. You are not going to treat me that way. If you think for 1 minute you're going to walk into my house and try to rule the roost this way, if you think that you can walk into my office, if you think you can call me on the phone and talk to me that way, I am not one of your friends. I am not, fill in the blank. You cannot talk to me that way. I just want you to know that. That's what pride sounds like. Or I'm not going to come back and break the silence. Sometimes whenever somebody gets into an argument, one person goes one way, another person goes one way, they're freezing each other out. Pride says, I'm not going to speak to them until they speak to me. I'm not going to apologize until they apologize to me. This is the voice of pride. And it's basically surrounding the idea that I deserve better. I deserve better. I'm more right than you. You may have made a few good points in the midst of our argument, but your few points are like grains of sand compared to my weighty, intelligent position that I'm taking and that I took. This is an element of pride. You're stupid, I'm smart. You're treating me less than what I deserve to be treated. This is pride. And so these are the three main contributors to conflict. Now, this is what I want you to think about. I believe that these contributors, fear, pride, and guilt, are from the enemy. They're not coming from yourself. They're not thoughts that have come up in your mind, come up in your heart, that you're entertaining, and it's coming from you. And I also don't believe that they're coming from God. I really believe that the enemy, Satan himself, and the spirits and the demons that surround him, are provoking you to fear, to guilt, to pride, to feel these things. And this is why. Because how do you feel whenever you are entertaining these fearful thoughts? How do you feel whenever, let's just take your husband, for example. When you're thinking about your husband and you think to yourself, there's a different side to him that nobody knows about. There's a side to my mom that nobody knows about. She's fooling everybody, but she's not fooling me. She's a dog that bites. He's a dog that bites. Whenever you're thinking about those thoughts, what does your spirit feel like? What does your stomach feel like? Doesn't it feel like on the inside that you're telling yourself a lie? if you want to just be completely honest, doesn't your spirit tighten up? Don't you feel anger? Don't you feel disappointment? Doesn't it feel like you're telling yourself a lie? Doesn't truth feel a little bit more brighter and confirming and positive? Truth sounds like this. Hey, they have a part of their personality that they have not ironed out yet. They have a part of their personality that when it awakes and when it's in full bloom, it hurts people. But you know what? They are a beautiful person. They're a wonderful person. They're just like I am, as a matter of fact. I've got things about me that have got to get better. They have to get better. But by and large, God made me a wonderful person. I've got things to work on. Truth feels more soothing. It feels peaceful. It feels softer. Truth, when you know the truth, and the truth will set you free. The truth is that this person has a weakness that they don't even like about themselves. They don't even like it. And so when we begin to entertain the truth, we know that that the truth is from God, that it's softer. Whenever you begin to believe fear, you can tell that your stomach tightens up. You can tell that you're getting more and more angry. See, these are characteristics of a spirit, that the more you entertain that particular thought, let's say you're entertaining a thought of grace, then you will begin to feel peace. If you're entertaining a thought of fear, you will feel tense. You will feel angry. See, whatever spirit that you entertain, you will have a residual effect in your stomach and in your feelings and in your emotions. Whatever spirit you're entertaining, you will feel the residual effect physically, emotionally, in your spirit and in your heart. If you entertain thoughts of grace, you will feel more peaceful. If you entertain thoughts of fear, that dog bites, I can't trust him, you will feel yourself get angry, intense, and more stressed. When it comes to guilt, it's the same exact way. It's straight from the enemy. As you entertain the thoughts that you did, the things that you did, the actions that you did that you feel horrible about, you will feel yourself go deeper and deeper and deeper into a depression. That's how you know you're entertaining an evil spirit, because you're going deeper and deeper and deeper into guilt. Whenever you're entertaining a spirit of love that's from God, and you think to yourself, I'm so thankful that you're so forgiving. You forgive me quicker than I forgive me. I thank you, God, that these things are behind me. I thank you that the stupid things that I've done in the past are not going to derail my future. It's not going to derail my relationships. I thank you that you've forgiven me. See, all of a sudden, the spirit that you're entertaining is a spirit of love. You can start feeling yourself. It starts confirming the spirit that you're entertaining by the feelings that you're feeling. You can start feeling hope be injected into your spirit. And then even with pride, whenever you start saying, I deserve better, I deserve for that person to treat me better, you are not going to come into my home and talk to me like that, I deserve better, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm more right than you, I'm not going to apologize until you apologize. You are entertaining an evil spirit, a negative spirit, so you're getting more and more angry. And once again, your spirit is your emotions is confirming the spirit that you're entertaining. You're getting more angry, you're getting more tense, your eyes are getting a little bit more slitted, your tone is a little bit more aggressive. But then whenever you shift away from pride and you start saying the exact opposite, more of a humble position of, hey, look, bottom line is I'm going to force myself to esteem others to be better than myself. I may not have been treated as well as I should have been treated, but the reality is that I'm not God's gift to mankind. You don't have to treat me super special every single time you see me. You're allowed to be in a bad mood and treat me like a common Joe. Yes, I would prefer for you to respect me the way I respect you, but the reality is that I'm not the king of the world. I'm not the president of the United States. I'm not you don't have to kiss my ring. Sometimes when you're in a bad mood and you're ticked off and you want to talk to me in a way, hey, look, I love you enough, and this world and the space that we live in and the relationship that you and I are living in, I love you enough that you can talk to me that way because I get it. I understand. When you're having a horrible day, when you're down, you don't want to filter your words every time you say something. You don't want to filter your emotions. You don't want to filter your thoughts. You want to just let it come out like a flood. And if it doesn't sound right, and it doesn't have the right tone, and it doesn't have all the respect that I would like to have, but because I'm ticked off, you know what? You're in a space that you can do that with me. You're in a space that you can do that with me. You can look at me, you can talk to me, and you can feel safe. I'm not going to make you pay for being in a bad mood. I'm not going to make you pay for being human. I'm not going to make you pay for that. You're in a safe spot. You're in a safe place. If you want to be human and just be a jerk, you know what? You can be a jerk around me, and I'm going to love you anyway. And I'm not going to make you pay, and I'm not going to push you back. You're in a safe spot. One of the things I love about God is that when we're frustrated, when we're upset, when we're disappointed, we can get into a room and we can cry and we can yell and we can say, God, I'm so upset with what you're allowing to happen. Why don't you step in? I don't understand. I'm so disappointed. I'm so upset. And you know what's so wonderful about God is that he understands. The Bible says this, that we are made from dust. He knows that we're made from dust. He knows our frame. He knows that we can only carry so much. And so he doesn't take it personal whenever we express our disappointment in him or in what's happening. He understands that we're just human and we can't take that much. And so whenever we're expressing our disappointment or our true feelings unfiltered, we're in a safe spot with him. It's not like he listens to our prayer and says, do you know who you're talking to? Guess what? You're excommunicated for life. He doesn't respond that way. And so it's a loving thing. It's an impressive thing. It's a mature thing. Only a wise person can do what I'm describing. But I'm challenging myself and I'm challenging you to be able to be wise, to be able to be that person, to be able to say, hey, look, fear is an option. Guilt is an option. Pride is an option. But when I entertain fear, guilt, and pride, not only is that relationship going to suffer, not only am I going to have to carry around this concrete mountain in my spirit, but I am entertaining the thoughts from the father of lies. The father of lies is constantly breathing words into our mind and in our spirit, and our spirit tightens up and we get angry to tell us, hey, that's coming from the father of lies. That's not coming from our Father. And so I hope something I've said to you encourages you. I hope something I've said to you strengthens you. And let me say this. I usually say this at the beginning, but the difference between good and outstanding is just a little bit extra effort. It's putting extra effort into whatever it is that you're doing, a little bit of extra effort into a relationship, a little bit of extra effort into listening, a little bit extra effort into being sensitive, a little bit extra effort into a project that takes you an hour and 10 minutes all of a sudden becomes outstanding when it's an hour and 20 minutes. It's just a little bit extra effort that separates good from outstanding. So here's the challenge. Go out, be outstanding, shock the world, and don't ever forget, you're going to spend eternity somewhere. So make sure you're ready. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Ciao.